Hi, I'm Judy Graybill, Relationship Healer Certified Stepfamily Coach, helping you go from conflict to connection to partnership. I specialize in moderate to high conflict relationships, people who have had multiple failed relationships, who have recovered from trauma, or are in a remarriage with children, aka a stepfamily. Today I want to talk about the real cause of ReDivorce in stepfamilies. I already have one video on my channel about that, but that was more of an overview. So today I want to get into more of the specifics. So Saturday, September 16th is National Stepfamily Day, and that is that was part of my inspiration for wanting to come on and talk about this really important issue for stepfamilies. So I don't know if you're new to being a stepfamily or not, but you might have heard something about stepfamily dynamics. These are important. They're important to know. I recommend learning about them. I recommend books. I love Patricia Papernow's book, Surviving or Thriving in a Stepfamily. I don't remember the exact title. It's something like that. But look up Dr. Patricia Papernow. I love her books. But stepfamily dynamics is not the cause of ReDivorce in stepfamilies. And just as an FYI, the statistics are staggering. 60% of second marriages, 74% of third marriages, most end within 5 years. And if you last 10, you're considered a success, even though I know for a fact that some of many people who have had successful 10-year plus marriages, first families, or remarriages are in what I call a stable dysfunction, stable dysfunctional relationship, which I'm not going to discuss here. So if stepfamily dynamics are not the cause of ReDivorce, what is? Well, it's when those are not resolved, they lead into relationship issues. And it's the relationship issues that cause ReDivorce. So I want to talk a little bit about what those relationship issues are. This little video is going to be a deep dive into those. So, resentments. So when your partner wants you to change something, or you want to change something in your partner, underneath that, there might be some misunderstandings of what the reasons are. We take offense to those. They feel personal. Sometimes they're going against our values. What our partner is doing is going against our values. Or when they suggest a change to us, it could be something that feels like they're attacking us. So we get hyper defensive. So, and then if we can't resolve those issues, there's a lot of hurt feelings for whatever it is. And I did not think of, like, I could, if I thought about it, I could come up with some examples from clients, but I want to just keep this as short as possible today. So I'll just keep going. But if you're in that situation, you probably are experiencing that. So you can't resolve an issue, the tension lingers, and if you can't resolve it, then it's a reoccurring issue. And it'll recur in many ways. So a lot of times the things that we're arguing about is not really the thing that we're arguing about. Like if you have a lot of petty arguments with your significant other or spouse, a lot of times that's resentments from other stuff. It's not really about that immediate issue. Okay, so resentments can be voiced or hidden. Sometimes you know what your partner's resentments are. Sometimes they're hidden. Sometimes your partner has hidden resentments as well as voiced resentments, just like you have probably hidden resentments as well as voiced resentments. if you've tried talking about the issue and your conversations always end in arguments, well, you might have some resentment over whatever the reason is for that not meeting resolution. Whatever the reason is, you're going to have some lingering tension there, and it's a problem you have to deal with regularly. Thinking your partner is wrong when it comes to the kids. Okay, so this is huge in a remarriage. And it's biological parents thinking that the step-parent is wrong. It's also the step-parent thinking that the biological parent is wrong. If you lose respect for your partner on their parenting abilities, that's a big red flag. And that happens. Or, if in my situation, I did not have children of my own, so it was, I was told a lot that it was all of the things that I saw that were wrong or were not helping the kids, in my opinion, were all because I just didn't have any experience. I was not a mom, and I had a lot of resentments for that. I'm not alone, so, I don't know if you're listening to this, you're, pointing the finger at me, you probably were wrong, Judy. Well, that's on you, but a lot of other step-parents out there without children, you know what I'm talking about. And some of you, and that's a common thing, because step-parents see things that parents don't. A wise friend of mine once said to me that the most courageous thing a person can do is be 100% honest with themselves, and nothing is truer than in the case of relationships. And a lot of parents parent out of guilt. So, one or both of you are seeing the other person as being wrong, especially when it comes to the kids. If you think that the kids' well-being is being affected, and sometimes it's a very innocent thing, because you just think that it's not that they're wrong or that they're doing anything maliciously, it's just that they're not considering everything. There's another perspective that they haven't considered. A lot of times that's what I get from clients, especially step-parents. So then there's the blaming your partner for what's going wrong, or them blaming you, which also cause resentment and hurt feelings. Not trusting your partner's intentions. Again, you have to be courageously honest with yourself 100%. If you believe that your partner is not trusting you 100% or your intentions, that is extremely hurtful. And the reverse is true. Now, in my experience as a coach, 99% of the time, both parents have good intentions. 99% of the time, the intentions are actually good. It's the perception of those intentions that need to be tweaked, because we just don't understand why our partner is doing a certain thing or why they're not doing a certain thing. There's a lot of things that go into play on why somebody does not do a thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, it was going to be at the bottom of my list, but I'll say it now. Unhealed trauma is one reason why some parents will parent out of guilt. Unhealed trauma. They'll say one thing and do another. It's underlying fears, the wounded inner child, or unhealed trauma. I don't have, I'm not a wealth of information. My expertise is not in unhealed trauma, but I know that that's a factor. For a fact, I've learned enough to know that it's a fact that unhealed trauma is really, really, really common. I just learned recently that I had my own unhealed trauma that was impacting me in all of my relationships, which I have now healed most of that. However, like it was undiagnosed at the time. So for some of you who are listening to me right now, you might have unhealed trauma. And if you're complaining or blaming your partner for saying something and not doing it, doing something else, or not stepping up to the plate, not holding their weight, not helping, or whatever it is, that may be undiagnosed, unknown, unhealed trauma. Just planting that seed. Okay, so all of those issues I just mentioned up to this point will affect your desire to have date night or not. When your desire for date night diminishes, or if you want to have date night, but your date nights are ending in arguments, which was the case with me, we kept doing a fresh start. We had multiple fresh starts. And when every time we would do a fresh start, we would have date night to commemorate the fresh start. And multiple times, those date nights ended in arguments. Really, really bad arguments where we almost ended up breaking up again at the end because, again, we weren't resolving any of those issues. So I will just say, if you are doing date nights, just make a few rules how some topics are just off the discussion table. And if you can do it. We tried the whole rule thing. It didn't work for us. But I've had clients where, like, again, they were not having date night for a long time. But then as they were working with me and we worked through those issues, they started having date nights again. And so... and then there, as far as I know, like that was a few years ago, and a few months ago when I checked in, their marriage was stronger than ever, and they have regular date nights. So anyways, okay. If your partner is not showing up for you, this was huge, and this is really big if you have, like, if you're in a remarriage, and especially if you're a stepmom and you're having a lot of challenges with the biological mom. Stepdads have some issues with the biological dad, but not as much. But either way, if you are that's where it might feel like your partner's not showing up for you. So like in my case, when the biological mom was going through extra measures to try to manipulate situations, to make herself look like the hero and make me look like the zero, what I needed and wanted was my partner to come to my aid and to defend me and lift me up. But because of his inner wounding, he was unable to do that. So he was not... he wasn't there for me. He wasn't supporting me. I did not feel supported, and that made me feel betrayed. And so, if that will cause a relationship issue. If you are asking your partner to do something and your partner is just not doing it, then that's going to cause relationship issues. But I will add to that it helps if you understand why they're not doing it. So sometimes they just don't understand what you're asking. And so, like, one of the things that I've learned is my partner misunderstood what I was asking. They still tried to help me in the way that they thought that I needed. It wasn't exactly what I needed because they just didn't understand what I really needed. However, I felt loved I felt supported and I felt grateful for them making the attempt, because their intention was to help me. Their intention was to meet my need. So in some way that still actually helped me, even though it wasn't the initial thing that I was asking for. So I just want to throw that out, because some of you, initially it wasn't the case for me. Initially I felt resentment, so I had to like learn that perspective. So maybe that new perspective will help you, because sometimes some partners are really genuinely trying, even though they don't understand. And if you're hyper emotional, then they're not hearing you. And so like sometimes our own inner wounding, or we're just not finding the right words, due to many different factors. So that's going to affect our ability to clearly communicate. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's see, what else? So another thing is, if there's been a lot of arguments that have not gone, that have not been resolved, what most often happens is you just stop talking about them. So either you cope as you individual cope, or each of you are coping in some other way, or you're ignoring it. Maybe you're trying to cope in some other ways, but your partner doesn't even think it's an issue, or vice versa. Basically, you stop talking about it. But you know what those topics are, so when the potential that challenge comes up again, you might not want to be honest about what that challenge is, because you don't want to cause another argument. So pay attention to your thoughts. Like, what are you muttering underneath your breath? What are you fearing? What are you afraid of? What are you not saying? Is there something you're afraid to be honest about? Are you suppressing who you are? Are you suppressing your opinions? Are you suppressing certain aspects of you because it's going to cause an argument, because it's going to cause an uproar, because it's, you've learned in the past that it causes an argument, so therefore it probably is. So, and then, like I said, I also mentioned the unhealed trauma. That is a rundown of common relationship issues. I'm sure there are more, but those are the biggest ones. So, and those cause the separation of all relationships, all marriages, not just remarriages with children, not just stepfamilies, not just second or third or fourth marriages, like even first marriages. The stable dysfunction comes in is if you just go with those coping mechanisms for a really long period of time and you stay in silence. Now you may still feel the connection, or you may still feel the love, but if you're not having those conversations, do you really know how your partner feels about it? Maybe there's not resolutions to every single problem, but there's a lot more awareness nowadays around a lot of things than there used to be. So maybe it's time to actually learn a few new things, get a new perspective. There are some things that I've been able to help clients with that they were not able to get results with previous coaches or counselors, especially if those previous coaches and counselors were not knowledgeable of stepfamily dynamics. So even though the relationship issues causes the ReDivorce, you still need to also know what those stepfamily dynamics are and resolve them in relationship to those stepfamily dynamics. So the relationship issues need to be resolved first before you can resolve the stepfamily dynamics. So in those quote unquote successful remarriages with children that have had only minimal conflict, they just have resolved that conflict and it didn't bleed into relationship issues. Or they haven't resolved it and they're still dealing with it and are just not saying it, because that is also a thing, and that's what I call stable dysfunctional. So I have a free ebook on my website, the 5 biggest risk factors for conflict in a blended family. That's free. It's a mini ebook with the 5 biggest risk factors for conflict and the solutions for those. And so if you can't resolve those, then it'll bleed into relationship issues. And if you need help with the relationship issues, then I suggest my reference guide for being a team. And I'll do another video at some point about that. And that is judygraybill.com/teamwork. All right, well, I will leave it there for now. And I hope you have a blessed day. Oh yes, reach out to me, hello@judygraybill.com. I'll put my address in the email address in the notes below. All right, if you want help or feedback on your specific situation. Thanks and have a great day.